So what was the whole different culture back then of going out? You got dressed up more?
We dressed up all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, particularly when we were teenagers. We went out to dancing. We had stiff petticoats, my sister and I.
Yeah.
And we used to starch them up before we went out.
Did you make your own dresses?
Yes. We used to make our dresses, start making our dress. If we were going out on a Saturday night, we probably started making our dresses on the Monday night beforehand.
Really?
And nearly every time we went out, we had a new dress.
Really?
Yes. And we used to cut the petticoats out in the hall. We had a very long hallway. And we used to cut the petticoats out in the hallway, and they were all gathered by hand.
Wow.
So you'd start at one end of the hall and end up at the end. And we had a cat that used to love jumping on the patterns. So we would lay our material out on the floor, and he would be waiting for it, and he'd take a fly. He'd wait until we were finished, and we had them all pinned out on the floor, and he would leap on top of the whole lot. He always got growled at. But we were all, my poor mother, she never knew what we were going to do next, my sister and I. But the petticoats, we used to starch them up in the morning and leap into them in the evening. And when we were going out, we climbed inside them. We didn't put them over your head, we climbed inside them.
Wow.
And my poor sister, we used to go around and go out on a bus. And when you were sitting we used to sit in the front seat of the bus. The front seats, the long seats, and the dresses used to fly up. And we didn't know that that's where all the boys used to sit at the same time, and they'd watch the petticoats as they moved. Yeah.
You'd go to dances. Was it every week?
Every Saturday night. We used to go to different places. When I first started going out, I was 16. My brother was 17. And we had to go out together and come home together.
Right.
Which didn't happen, of course. We came home together, that's what Mother knew. And she expected him to dance every dance with me. And we would go into the dance hall, and he says, well, I'll drop, see you later, I'd say, and that was it. And I think, if I remember rightly, it was supper. We may have had supper dance together, and then we came home together. This went on for a few months, few years really, a couple of years. Yeah, Mum was none of the wiser. And
there were bands that would play.
Yeah, they had band three. They had a six-piece a full band. We used to go to St Benedict's and St Sep's, and the boys all stood up on one side, and the girls were opposite. And they used to, in those days, of course, the boys always came and asked the girls to dance. Yeah. But with my sister and I, Miriam was so much taller than me, and sometimes we would sit down, and we would see a short man coming towards her to ask her for a dance, and we knew what would happen. The minute my dear sister stood up, she was looking down on the man, and he'd be highly embarrassed, and we would dance around together. I usually had a tall man, and she had the short man, and she could see watching over his shoulder, and we'd be laughing while we were dancing. But the poor guy, we knew that instantly when he came over to see my sister what would happen. And she sort of unwound as she stood up. She used to tuck her legs underneath the seat, though they didn't know how tall she was. Yeah. She eventually, of course, met a lovely tall man her own height, and that was it. And he ended up by being her husband.
Did you know how to rock and roll?
Yes.
Did you get taught?
No, you never got taught your dances, you just did them. Yeah.
Well, you just learnt on the dance floor.
Well, you learnt with the poor unfortunate you were dancing with. Yeah. Trot over their feet and vice versa, but you picked it up. We seem to have a natural ability, natural rhythm, I think, for those sort of dances. Yeah. I was all part of the fun. When we were young, my brother and I went to ballroom dancing together.
Oh, yeah.
And we learnt the normal foxtrot waltzes and all that sort of thing. And Des and I went to this lady to learn to dance, and the men had to wear white gloves. And the reason for the white gloves was if they had sweaty hands, they didn't dirty the backs of the girls' dresses. So they had they look so funny, yeah, in these white gloves. But they taught you manners. She taught you manners on the dance floor, and yeah, how to dance properly. It was good training, yeah. But when you did the rock and roll dances, you just picked them up, yeah.
Because you wouldn't have had TV to watch how people did it.
No, you never had anything like that. No, there was no television, of course, when we were growing up. Only we used to have listen to the radio, so you knew what was going on around you. It was a much better time. No mobile phones.
Yeah. And you said the boys used to drop you home often.
Well, with my friend Margaret, we used to go out, and this was when Miriam was already going out with Eric, and we used to always, the last dance, we'd always get somebody to take us home. And they didn't know they were just taking me home. Always took Margaret as well. And if she had someone to take her home, I went with her. So we used to often pretend that where we lived, we'd say, "Oh, we live in this house," and just so we didn't have to say goodnight to them, and they'd just drop us off outside someone's house, and we wait till they went, and then we go home. We quite often did that, yeah.
So why? So they didn't know where you lived?
We didn't. Sometimes they wanted to kiss you goodnight, and you didn't want that. So that's not why we met them. We only went with them to get a ride home, because by doing it that way, you could stay later, and you didn't have to get the last bus home.
Oh right.
So you usually waited for a ride.
You were in buggers.
Most times we got somebody. Yeah, it was all decent and above board. I suppose they knew what we were doing anyway. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it was good times, very good times. You can't do that now, I'm afraid. Life's just not like that.
Yeah.